Wait until you hear what happened next. You won't believe how one quiet teacher left an entire classroom stunned. That's right, friends, stick around until the very end because you'll want to see how this story turns out. And before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Outfit Stories for more real-life moments that will blow your mind. Miss Clara Hughes was the kind of teacher most people overlooked. She wore modest clothes, kept her hair neatly tied back, and spoke so softly that sometimes students had to lean forward to hear her. In a high school full of loud voices and restless energy, she was like a gentle breeze, calm, steady, and easy to miss. Most of her students respected her quiet kindness, but there was one group who didn't. Led by Ryan, a tall, athletic boy with an arrogant smirk, and backed by his loud friends, they saw Clara's calm nature as weakness. At first, it was harmless teasing. Mimicking her voice, calling her Miss Whisper in the hallways. She ignored them, believing patience and professionalism would win over immaturity. But as weeks passed, the jokes turned to disruptions in class, whispered insults while she wrote on the board, and mocking laughter whenever she asked them to settle down. Clara never shouted, never threatened detention, she simply carried on. But the group took her silence as fear. One Friday after the final bell, Clara stayed in her classroom, carefully arranging her lesson materials for Monday. The late afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the desks. She didn't hear the footsteps until they were in the doorway. Ryan, Luke, and two other boys leaned against the frame, grinning. "Hey, Miss Hughes," Ryan said with fake sweetness, tossing a crumpled paper ball onto her desk, "you ever yell? Or do you just whisper people to death?" The others burst into laughter. Clara straightened, brushing the paper aside. "Please, boys, go home. It's the weekend." But instead of leaving, Luke sauntered forward, grabbed a stack of her neatly arranged worksheets, and fanned them into the air like confetti. "Oops," he said, feigning innocence. Papers floated to the floor. Clara's lips pressed into a thin line as she quietly gathered them. "You need to go," she repeated, her voice calm but firm. "And if we don't?" Luke stepped closer, his tall frame casting a shadow over her. The others closed in, blocking her path to the door. Ryan laughed. "What's she gonna do? Give us a pop quiz?" The room smelled faintly of chalk and dust, and for a moment the only sound was the ticking of the wall clock. Then, in one sudden motion, Clara reached out, grabbed Luke's wrist, and twisted it in a quick, controlled movement. He yelped, stumbling back in shock, clutching his arm. The laughter died instantly. Clara looked each of them in the eyes, her gaze steady and unshaken. "Leave. Now." They stared at her, surprised and unsure. No one had ever seen the quiet Miss Hughes move like that. Ryan recovered first, smirking again but with a flicker of uncertainty. "What, you know karate or something?" She didn't answer. Instead, she picked up her bag, walked to the door, and before leaving, turned to face them. "Come to the gym Monday after school," she said evenly. "I'll show you." Then she walked out, her heels clicking on the polished floor, leaving them frozen in place. Over the weekend, the story spread like wildfire. By Saturday afternoon, whispers filled the group chats. "Did you hear? Miss Hughes challenged Ryan's crew to something in the gym." Students speculated wildly. Was she going to scold them in front of everyone? Give them detention in public? Nobody guessed the truth. Ryan's friends laughed it off at first, but every time they remembered how quickly she had moved, that laughter felt thinner. By Sunday night, curiosity had gripped the entire school. Monday after classes, the gym would be packed. And for the first time, Ryan wasn't entirely sure he was ready. Monday afternoon came faster than Ryan expected, and by the final bell, the school was buzzing. Word had spread far beyond the classrooms, even some teachers were curious. The gymnasium smelled of polished wood and echoed with the chatter of dozens of students piling onto the bleachers. Phones were ready to record whatever was about to happen. Ryan and his friends entered, trying to look casual, but the way they shifted uncomfortably gave them away. A few minutes later, the gym doors opened again, and Clara walked in. She wasn't in her usual blouse and skirt. Instead, she wore loose athletic pants, a plain t-shirt, and a light jacket. Without a word, she crossed the floor, placed her bag on the bench, and slipped off her jacket. The room collectively gasped. Tied neatly around her waist was a black belt. Ryan blinked. You do Taekwondo?" Clara's calm eyes met his. "For 15 years, she replied. "I've taught self-defense classes for nearly a decade. Today, I'll teach you something important, not to humiliate you, but so you understand that strength isn't always loud." She beckoned Luke forward. "Grab my arm," she instructed. Luke hesitated, glancing at his friends before lunging. In one fluid motion, Clara pivoted, flipped his grip, and sent him stumbling backward without force or harm. The crowd erupted in gasps and murmurs. She called Ryan next. "Kick my shoulder." He laughed nervously, sure she wouldn't be able to block it. But as soon as he moved, Clara spun, caught his leg midair, and placed it gently back on the ground before he could react. "Taekwondo is not about attacking," she explained. "It's about control, respect, and discipline." Her movements were so fast and precise that the students watching could barely follow. She demonstrated a few more defensive techniques, each time explaining how they worked and why they were effective. She never mocked the boys, never raised her voice, only spoke with quiet authority that carried more weight than shouting ever could. The boys' arrogance slowly melted into awe. Ryan's smirk was gone, replaced with something almost like respect. By the end of the demonstration, the room was filled with applause. Ryan stepped forward, his face flushed. "Miss Hughes. I'm sorry. We were wrong about you." Clara nodded. "I hope you remember this, never judge someone by how loud they are. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the strongest." Students cheered, some even asking her for lessons after school. Word of the event spread online, with videos of her moves gaining thousands of views. She was no longer just the quiet teacher, she became an example of grace under pressure, and proof that true strength doesn't need to shout. And remember, never underestimate someone just because they're quiet, you never know the battles they've already won. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Outfit Stories for more inspiring tales that will leave you amazed.